IRBs have multiple responsibilities, which include the laying and adjustment of buoys, rescues during competition, recovery of capsized craft, judge in boat duties, and general surveillance duties. Equipment required includes all-terrain vehicle or a four-wheel drive, side-by-side vehicle or tractor, fully equipped IRB, two-way radios. For the course, anchors, plastic crates or buckets, trip lines, bubbles, and buoys. Prior to loading the IRB, lay all equipment out on the beach and double-check everything required is available. Here is an example of 9 buoy colours in order, starting with red and yellow to green and gold. Release motor spin clamps and move the motor to the port side of the transom plate. Retension the motor spin clamp. Make sure there is at least a 5 cm gap between the starboard side of the transom plate. This will allow the trip or tow lines to pass the outboard motor easily, reducing the chance of getting caught. This will not affect the way the IRB operates in the surf zone. Clip the rescue tube under the spray dodger on the starboard side. Clip tow rope under the spray dodger on the port side. Ensure IRB is operational. Create a clove hitch in the trip line. Attach the clove hitch to the spade end of the anchor. Clip the trip line to the D-shackle. Lift the anchor by the rope to tighten the clove hitch. Clip trip line around the spade end of the anchor. Create a clove hitch. Attach around spade end of the anchor. Lift to tighten. Create a clove hitch. Attach to spade end of the anchor. Clip trip line to the D-shackle at the end of anchor shaft. Single craft buoys have string lines and clips attached. Clips will be attached to the last link of the chain. Opposite end of the chain will be attached to the anchor. If a second IRB is not available, store the anchor at the stern in between the starboard and port anchors. This is all the gear for string and trip line setup. Anchors should be stored at the stern of the IRB. Lay chain alongside or on top of anchor, followed by trip line and bubble. Ensure that all lines are separated. Swim string line position in the centre of the IRB. Clip one swim buoy to a swim string line and clip the other swim string line to a bucket or crate handle. Store second swim buoy under spray dodger. In the event the IRB capsizes, all gear will be clipped down except for the swim buoy stored under spray dodger. This will float. With the single cone buoy, the V end of cone buoy on starboard side of IRB will stick out approximately 1 metre off the stern of the vessel. and the base end of the buoy diagonal to the port of the IRB. This allows for the driver and crew to sit in their normal position. Once at the required location, the driver selects neutral. The crew unclips the swim string bucket or crate and starts paying out the bubble, trip line, anchor and swim string line. The powercraft coordinator, referee or course supervisor will then instruct the driver to commence driving towards the next location. The crew continues to pay out the swim string line. Before reaching the first rings or loop on the swim string line, the driver slows and selects neutral. The driver will then proceed along the course, whilst the crew pays out the rest of the swim string line. Prior to reaching the end of the swim string line, the crew can then unclip the bucket or crate. The crew then pays out the anchor and chain, followed by the trip line on the starboard side of the IRB. Utilise a second IRB to assist when setting the course. The same procedure applies for the following: 4 buoy string lines, boat buoy string lines, boat gate buoy string lines, and 3 IRB buoy string lines. Comprises of string lines, buckets or crates, anchors, trip lines and bubbles with red, yellow to green, gold buoys. Front set buoy string line are laid behind the surf zone. The rear set IRB buoy string line is set approximately 40 metres behind the front set of the IRB buoy string line. Align rear set red, yellow and green, gold buoys up with front set IRB buoy string line. Return to shore and pick up 2 spacer string lines, 25 metres. One end should have a ring or loop 10 metres from one end of the spacer string line. Clip spacer string line onto the same ring or loop as front set red, yellow buoy. Once clipped on, crew pays out spacer string line until they reach the 10-metre ring. The driver puts the motor into neutral as crew clips centre red, yellow buoy or trip bubble onto the 10-metre loop. Driver puts motor into gear and idles towards the rear set buoys, whilst the crew pays out remainder of spacer string line. Once at rear IRB, set driver then puts motor into neutral and assists crew to clip the spacer string line onto the rear set red-yellow buoys. Complete task again for the green-gold buoy at opposite end of front-rear string lines. Proceed out to sea past the front set buoy string lines and bubble. The driver lines up the bubbles of the front string line and rear string line. The driver will also line up the trip bubble, which is on the spacer string line. The crew will then clip the line and the red and yellow buoy on the spacer string line. Driver then proceeds to the second spacer string line, puts motor into neutral. Crew will then clip the middle line and the green and gold buoy string line onto second spacer string line at the opposite end. Driver puts motor into gear and idles along until there is tension on the middle string line. Driver puts motor into neutral. Crew pays out anchor, trip line and bubble. Two methods are used to tension lines. Method 1. Driver tucks trip line underneath motor bolt tilt tube transom with approximately 1 metre of trip line and bubble, rear pontoon cone. The trip line is then wrapped around the motor spinner clamp thread once anti-clockwise and then pulled back with left hand towards driver. The driver then lets go part of the trip line with bubble and puts motor into gear and quickly grabs part of the trip line with bubble as motor starts to idle forward. Method 2. A short tow line no longer than 5 metres will be used to tow string lines and buoys. Driver will motor towards the bubble. If appropriate, select neutral. The crew retrieves bubble, starboard side, clipping the tow line rope to the bubble. Driver will then hook the tow line around the starboard side of motor clamp spinner. Driver will make sure tow line rope is tucked underneath motor bolt tilt tube. Driver puts motor into gear slowly, adding throttle, taking up the slack on the line. Once there is tension and more throttle, moving forward, straightening up the 9-buoy string line until the referee advises the driver to stop. Driver puts motor into neutral if appropriate. Crew retrieves tow line, unclipping the bubble and stowing it away. Once at the required location, the driver puts motor into neutral. Crew pays out craft single line and chain, making sure it doesn't get tangled up. Crew clips tow line to ring under craft buoy chain. Crew will then pass single craft buoy to the driver, who will have approximately 1 metre of craft line from buoy chain end. Driver places part of the craft line around the spinner. The powercraft coordinator, referee or course supervisor will advise driver where anchor and craft buoy should be located. When adjusting single craft buoys, you must always lay the anchor into the wind or ocean current and take the slack out of the single string line buoy. Tow single craft buoy. Once at the required location, the driver puts motor into neutral. The cone buoy is placed in the ocean, ensuring the anchor and string lines don't get tangled up. The anchor will stabilise the cone so it stays upright. The centre string cone line, which has a second anchor attached, is then placed in the water with the trip line bubble attached. Powercraft coordinator, referee or course supervisor advises driver where anchor and cone buoy should be located. When towing cone buoys, the cone buoy will be approximately 15 metres behind the IRB. The powercraft coordinator, referee or course supervisor will advise if the cone requires adjustment. Retrieve the cone with the first anchor attached. Retrieve the centre line with second anchor attached, followed by the trip line and bubble. Have buckets or crates ready to retrieve buoy string lines. Ensure anchors, chains, lines and buoys are retrieved in the exact same way. At major carnival events, there will be a workforce team available to help retrieve equipment and take it back up to the clubhouse.